not need a microphone or do not need any type of way I can project. I was talking to Jennifer. I was fortunate enough to save my voice in the second half of the Houston Texans game, because I thought I was going to lose it in the first half, because unfortunately that outcome wasn't what we had hoped for. I was actually at the game, and I will tell you, on a more somber note, thoughts going out to Coach Kubiak, because I tell you right now, I don't know if there's anyone at the game like me. Okay, I will tell you, the change in that environment was palpable after halftime. It was a completely different situation. So, with that being said, I'm going to jump straight in, and one of the things that I want to do today is, my hope is that, I tell this to folks a lot, and they don't know, is that they look at me funny, and you probably will too, and it won't be the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last as well. But one of the things that inspires me when I do what I do, just a little bit about me, and then I'll tell you that. My job and what I see it is at UH Clear Lake, I get to grow the people at the university and return to university. I teach management and leadership classes, not only where I train faculty and staff, but I also am now an instructor for the School of Business in their Center for Advanced Management Practices, where I teach external folks that come in from companies in businesses in the area, and management and leadership as well. That really is my passion, so I enjoy what I do. I love the fact that I get to bring me every day and use what I've got and my strengths. We're going to talk about that just a little bit today. One of the things in sharing that with you that I always do, and whether I'm doing a keynote, I'm doing a workshop, I always tell this joke, and people look at me funny, that my inspiration when I do what I do is the door.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Wow, what does that mean? Let me tell you what I mean by that. And I want to plant a seed with you. I want you to begin to think about what's in it for you. All right, what's in it for you? I know the title went out, The Power to Be resides in me. We're going to talk about what that means. But when you just think about the title, what is it that you would hope to gain or learn from the time that you're here that we're here together? I've got you for the next 3.5 hours. Oh no, that wasn't right? I'm kidding. Okay. Just making sure I'm dialed in. But the reason why I share, and I want you to give me some time to think about that. One thing I know about adult learners, if we don't dial in as to what's in it for us, we don't get from anything that we participate in as much as we can, because we're not thinking about, what do I really want to gain? What do I hope to take away? So what might be your takeaways that you would want to have by the time we're done with today? And I hope to have you out here within about an hour and 15 minutes. That way it gives you time to flex back what you got to do. What makes you want to gain? I heard stress.
You want to gain stress or lose it?
Lose it. How to manage stress effectively. I'll give you some ways to do that. Confident in that here today. What else? What else might you want to gain or learn? Knowledge. Confidence.
Motivation.
Motivation. I can work on that a little bit. Okay, if need be, I've got a whistle in there, so we got understand. Okay, what else?
Clear with what we're saying.
Okay, I have some stuff that not directly but indirectly will touch on that. Okay, that I already have ready for today. We're going to talk about. So I think we're good there. Very good. Very good. See, this is why I'm inspired by the door. And let me tell you why that comes in. How many of you are familiar with the late Dr. Stephen Covey? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of his habits is begin with the end in mind. Well, if I don't begin with the end in mind and hoping to deliver what you want to get out of this time together, I can't make sure that when you walk out that door that you've got it. And so that's what's important to me, is how can I deliver some things? So I'm going to hit some stress. We're going to try to do some communication, some motivation, some knowledge, and also some resources that I think will help and empower and engage you on another way to unleash you, in essence, the power that resides within you, to let that all out. So what we're going to do here real quick, I want to kind of talk about some things as it relates to a constant that we all get to deal with. And that constant is a very short word. It's called change. Is anyone dealing with any change right now?
Yeah.
Just a little bit?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Well, what do we know about change? Let's open this up. What do we know about change?
Constant.
It's constant. It always happens, right? So if I was able to give you some tools and resources today to help you adapt to change and to manage change successfully, would that be helpful? Of course. All right. Because see, change gets to us in one of 3 ways. And I want you to remember this. One of 3 ways change comes to us. 1, it's a top down. It's coming. We got no choice. It's being done unto us. All right? It's being done unto us. This could come from, and I'm in higher education as well, so I know how things go. For example, for us, it could come in regards to a state or a local new policy, expectation, requirement, regulation. We don't have a choice. We must do. Therefore, the change is being done unto us. We didn't ask for it. We didn't go looking for it. It just happens, and we have to adapt to it. Okay, so change just gets to us. The second way is sometimes it's an opportunity change. We see or we define or we look at something as, and usually with an opportunity change, there's a small time frame. And you have to make a very important critical decision. It's kind of, should we stay or should we go now, right? And some of you can continue that one. But the point is, it's an opportunity. And it's not going to come around all the time, but it's right here, it's right now, and what do we do, and how do we go, and how does that make it happen? All right? So there is being done unto us, there's an opportunity change, and then there's a change out of necessity. And I can't think of any other ways that it comes, because it's one of those three things. And when I say change out of necessity, how many of you know the definition of insanity? All right, a lot of you laugh, a lot of you nod your head. It's the definition is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Right? Continue to do the same thing over and over again and expecting results. So the reason why I say that is that change out of necessity, change at times is only necessitated when the pain of remaining the same has become too great. I can't do this anymore, or this isn't working anymore, or whatever the case might be. Any weekend warriors out here doing yard work or out in the yard or activities, right? Anyone ever injure yourselves doing said activities? Your back, your foot, your ankle, your knee, right? And then what do you do? Because we can be too proud. We hobble along like Frankenstein until what? Until we can't take anymore. Then we finally own up, go to the doctor, get done whatever needs to be get done or adjusted, so that we're not hobbling around. You know, it's Halloween. We just passed Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, right? So we're not hobbling around like Frankenstein or anybody else. That's like, what is wrong with this person? But how many times does our pride get in the way and we don't make the change? Lots of times. Okay? So I want to give that frame of reference, because whether the change is being done unto us, it's an opportunity, or it's a must change, meaning we cannot stay the same. We have a role in how we approach that situation. All right, we have a role in how we approach that situation, and that's what I'm hoping to address and talk to you about today. Because we, when I say we, I mean the University of Houston Clear Lake, we're going through some significant changes on our campus community. All right, none that I don't think will impact you, but next fall we will have freshmen and sophomores on our campus for the very first time in our institution's history. And there are some faculty who are still in denial. Oh, we're not doing this, we're not, hello. We've already got close to over 300 applications already processed, and we are just now the first part of November. So yes, it's going to happen. It's going to allow us to serve a different population that's in our 30, going on 40 plus years of service, we haven't been able to serve. All right? So I know all about that, the stuff that's going on and how it relates. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this handout. I decided to go low tech for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it easier. But two, it allows us to just have a dialogue and talk. I don't want to get lost in slides or wow you with my PowerPoint prowess. All right? I hope to give you tools and information and resources. So one of the things that's there, that gaining awareness, that's the first question, and I really want you to think about, now that you have some more information, if there's anything that's significant to you you'd like to gain or learn, just write that down. Because what we're going to jump to right off the bat is to my Klinger zinger. And when you have a last name like Klinger, you have to take advantage of any fun that you can have it yourself. So I do. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is, are you where you thought you would be 5 years ago? I want you to stop for a moment and I want you to think back and reflect. Are you where you thought you'd be 5 years ago? Now notice in parentheses he says, in all areas or aspects of your life. That can be your health, that can be finances, that can be spiritually, that can be within your relationships, that could be in your career, and in this case, your professional development. Are you where you thought you'd be 5 years ago? And I want you to think about that. And the answer, how many of you would actually say, yes, I'm right where I thought I would be? Raise your hand. Nobody? Say yes and no. Yes, maybe in some areas, no in others, right? And see, and that usually is the response. It's sometimes yes in some, no in others. But when I say all areas, and one of the things that I look at is, how many of you, speaking of stress, get stressed when you can't produce the results in the areas that you truly desire to have them? Raise your hand. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start to talk about some of that. Let me tell you the story behind that question. I will never forget this experience that I had. You have to get tires changed on your vehicle. Maybe that's just a guy thing. I don't know. right? But I had to go get tires changed on the car, so you spend all half a day, right, doing it. You sit there, you go wait in line, they tell you, oh, it's going to be an hour and 45 minutes, 3 hours later, right? By the time they finally get the tires off and tires on, and you're out the door. So fortunately enough for me, there's an IHOP right next to the discount tire there where I live. So I planned in advance, right? I created a plan. Said I'm going to do this. I know it's going to take some time. I try to get there as early in the morning as I could get so I could try to beat the rush in the crowd. Long story, fast forward short, I'm sitting at IHOP, had my breakfast, and I don't ever just go somewhere and just sit. So I had my little journal, and I just started doing some reflecting time because I wasn't being interrupted by those people at home that I live with, my wife and my 2 kids, and this and or that. And at that point in time, we weren't as digitally connected by our electronic lassos on our hip as we are today. So I'm sitting there, believe it or not, with a journal with paper. I had paper inside, not an iPad, not an electronic device. Oh, and an implement called a pen. And I started to go through and just kind of reflect, like, where am I? What are we doing? What's going on? Because see, we were about to go through another significant life change. Klinger baby number 3 was en route. And I never really pictured 3 kids, but guess what? 3 are coming. And I started to think about this process, and I just stopped for a moment. And I wrote my name, my wife's, my oldest Garrett, my youngest daughter Audra, and then baby Klinger, because we didn't know. And believe it or not, my wife and I were kind of in the rarity these days. We bit the bullet on all 3 kids and didn't find out the gender until they were born. Yeah, it's kind of like, why ruin the best Christmas present you could ever imagine? All right, just because you can't. Anyway, that's another story for another day. So I wrote all our names down, and I wrote down our current age. And I don't know why, but just a 5-year mark stuck in my head. And I added, okay, in 5 years, how old will we be? I had to loosen the tie a little bit, okay? Had to loosen the tie a little bit. Of course, I wasn't wearing one today, supposed to get my work done, but whoo, boy, howdy. And then I started to think, oh my goodness, here we are now in 5 years from now. And then it made me go and think back 5 years ago, wow. And it just made a resounding impact. So I just, out of curiosity, started asking people in my circle of influence, where you thought you'd be 5 years ago? I just kept asking it, asking the same question over and over again. And then what I found out from those that I asked is that most people responded somewhat like you did. Yeah, in some areas, but in others, nowhere close. And so it led me down this path of, wow, why is that the case? Here's my case in point with you. How many of you have ever taken a family vacation, say, to Disneyland or anything else like that? Anyone taking a family vacation? How much time, energy, and effort did you put into planning that family vacation?
A lot.
A lot. Why? Wanted to travel.
Wanted it to be a success.
Wanted it to be a success. What else? You have a short period of time.
Wanting to minimize the arguments among the kids.
Minimize the arguments, right? This is the plan and we're sticking to it. Get back in line. This is your marching orders, right? Okay. Well, here's why I asked that question. We asked that because, yeah, we do. We put all these energy in. Heck, if you want to go to Disneyland anymore, there's full guides, there's companies, there's a whole enchilada. I mean, you can pay someone to plan your stuff out for you if you so wish and desire to do so. Most folks aren't willing, but some are. Why do I bring that up? Because we spent all that time planning that to make sure that for whatever that start time and that end time, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 2.5, whatever that vacation time frame may be, 4 days, we want absolutely everything we can get from that time frame, right? But why don't we do that in other areas or facets of our lives? See, I believe we go around more kind of, how many of you are Walking Dead fans? Anybody? Okay, some of you, okay. I'm just trying to get my pop culture references in early. All right. Point being, I love the show because to me it's strategic in nature. I don't get into, blood and guts and all that stuff, but I get into the strategic nature of it. And I literally look in the mirror, okay, what would you do? How would you assess the situation? How much you respond differently? How would you prepare for this? What would you do? Here's why I bring that up. You plan all that time and you go through that, and I think some of what we do, and we go through walking like zombies. We go from day to day to day to day, just reacting to circumstances and situations around us. How many of you would agree to that following statement? Not that you're a zombie, because you're obviously here live, check your pulse, make sure you're okay. All right, but we do. We just go through and we respond day in and day out. How many of you have lived in your inbox and by the end of the day you're like, I got absolutely nothing done? That's all you did. Respond. You're in a reactive mode. And how draining is that on your energy level? Okay? So that's part of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do we unleash that power that within so that at the end of the day you're not drained. How do we talk about so that you can navigate through change and challenges and situations? And the only way I know how to do that, Jennifer and I went back about, the only way I know how to do that is you got to do some planning. You have to give yourself permission to do some of that planning. Or, for example, 5 years from now I come back and say, so where are you at now? You go, oh, same place. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the same place where I'm standing now 5 years from now in all areas of my life. I hope that there's some improvement. I hope that there's some change. I hope that there's some more positive benefits. I hope that there's ways that I'm doing more of what is more close to me so that I can unleash me. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. So take a moment. I want to do a reflective piece. When you look at this handout, what areas of your life would you like to see some improvement? Now this is one of those sessions where you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it. If you write nothing down, then nothing I'm going to say is going to help you. But if you think about what are those areas, what are things that you might like to see improvement? And I'm not saying you'd like to eliminate it. You want improvement. You want to see something differently. You want something to be better than what it is today, tomorrow, and the day after, and 5 years from now, which we're going to get to in just a moment. What are some of those areas? You see, because one of the things I believe is when you don't have a plan, you get what you plan for. When you don't have a plan, you get what you plan for. So take a minute to think about that. What are some of those areas? Is it your professional development? Is anyone going back to school? Is anyone working on a degree? Is anyone trying to save financially to get towards that magic retirement number? What are some of those areas where you might like to see some improvement? Is there a relationship that you miss or that's not as strong as you want it to be? What are some of those areas? And see, the reason why I'm doing this with you here today is because I think it's important that we think in those perspectives. That we think about what is significant and important to us. For example, I'll give a little story here. How many of you have ever heard the poem called The Dash? Anyone ever heard the poem called The Dash? Yes? Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. It's a pretty good little one. The author of this particular version is Alton Maiden. He is a former Notre Dame football player, I believe a defensive lineman. Thinking, okay, how does that work, Ron? Well, this happened at the time that they were actually, Notre Dame had traveled with Lou Holtz, had traveled over to Ireland for a football game. And he was going through a cemetery, and as a result of the impact of that day is what came up here called this little poem called The Dash. I have seen death stare me with my own eyes in a way that many cannot know. I've seen death take others, but still leave her below. I've heard many screams of mother cries, but death has refused to hear. In my life, I have seen many faces filled with many tears. After death has come and gone, a tombstone sits for many to see, but it serves no more than a symbol of a person's memory. Under the person's name, it reads the date of birth and the date the person passed. But the more I think about the tombstone, the only important thing is the dash. Yes, I see the name of the person, but that I might forget. I also read the date of birth and death, but even that might not stick. But thinking about the person, I can't help but to remember the dash, because it represents a person's life, and that will always last. So when you begin to chart your life, make sure you're on a positive path, because people may forget your birth and death, but they will never forget your dash. So part of what I'm challenging you to do here today is from this point forward, how are you going to chart your life? And if you don't look at and think about the ways in which areas of improvement or things that you would like to adjust or see differently, then guess what happens 5 years from now? It's all just the same. Because how many of you have been here and have worked here for more than 5 years? Raise your hand. Now, how many of you would standing here today say, oh my gosh, that was just like yesterday? Yeah, just like, boom, there it is. Boom, there it is. I won't dance. I won't dance, won't sing, we won't go down that road. So just something to think about. Anyone care to share an area that you want to grow and develop, that you would like to see some improvement? Anyone? It's okay, that's personal too. I'm respecting that. I just thought I'd see if anyone wanted to share. See, I've got a vision and a dream that I get to do this every day, all day, and this is all I do. I don't have to do any of the other administrative stuff that comes through my door and my email. Like right now, how many of you have to do annual mandatory training? Anyone? I'm that guy on our campus that gets to get all the people in compliance. Oh, and I can't even tell you just how much I love it. So one of the things that I'm going to do, that was a joke, glad you laughed. One of the things we're going to do, we're going to talk about this, this is the part that Jennifer, like, I can't separate it out. We're talking about getting your house in order. No, this is not a house cleaning session, ladies and gentlemen. What this is getting your personal house in order. And I believe when we do so, we truly unleash that power that resides within you. So we're going to come back to this, but we're going to move forward on to page 4 already. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to stop right now, and I like this number 5. I want you to think about what are the top 5 most important things to you right here, right now in your life. What are those top 5 things? It can be anything. Come up with your top 5 list. What are those 5 things? And create that list right now. So I'll give you a moment to do so. Top 5 most important things. Now, the one I do want to say, 1 is more important than 2, which is more important than 3, but they're all significant. What are those top 5 things that matter most to you? Right here, right now, 1:55 p.m. on November 5th, 2013. So by a quick show of hands, how many of you have ever kind of just stopped and went through this thought process before? Raise your hand, other than those that may have gone through a training with me before. You have? Okay. And usually it's a very small number, because we keep just kind of bouncing through our day, and it's going to all go good, and we keep our positive attitude, and maybe some days it's harder than others, but we just keep going. It's kind of like the Energizer Bunny. Doom, doom, doom. Doesn't mean we're going in the right direction. Because I guarantee you there are folks that are in here that at some point in time in your life you said, why am I doing what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, with whom why? What's going on? And the best thing you can do in this activity is be absolutely 100% brutally honest with yourself. List as much of those activities down that you can process and come up with. All right, so just out of curiosity, has anyone ever done this before? You taking stock of your time? Oh, yeah. Okay, a couple of you out there. Good. Reason why I think this is critical, because our time is our most valuable resource. Like I said, it's that one, we can't save it, we can't invest it, we can't have it grow into anything else. Once it's spent, it's spent. I always give the example when I'm working with students. How many of you have ever said, oh, if I only would have studied more for that test, or if I only put more, if only I could have, I should have, I would have, right? Well, that's time management. But one of the things that's on here that's powerful is you can tell what's important to people by how they spend their time. I believe in that wholeheartedly. All right, does anyone have any of their total times that they've got?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Out loud.
Okay, let's see. I did TV.
Just give me the total in.
The total in 168.
Okay. Anybody else have any time that they've used? Got your grand total yet? So I'm working on it. I see all those iPhones and smartphones out and getting used. I think I see more iPhones than anything else. 178. Okay. What else?
153.
153. Okay, we'll do a couple more.
I know, that was the top of my list too. So
Anyone else got their grand total they'd like to share yet?
Watch the iPad one. She wants to see it.
No, I know what she did. Hold on, hang on to that for just a moment.
I did mine before. I did mine before.
All right, so for sake of time here, I want to roll through some of this. Don, how'd you come up with 178 hours?
I got 168.
Yeah, you got 168?
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote it down wrong?
Did I say
You said 178.
Did I say 178?
Yeah.
Okay, 178.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe I'm doing something at the same time I'm doing something else.
Alright.
That's a problem for me, which I'd probably be more productive if I would do one thing at a time, but I almost
Ding, ding,
never
ding,
do.
ding, 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 ding. We there have the answer. What's your name?
Desi Hunt.
Desi. She just owned you, didn't she? And you notice I stopped and I caught on quick enough to know something's not right here. What's your name?
Sherry Wilburn.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you. But see, here's the thing, and everybody started to hear this. Well, but I multitask. Yes, I multitask. So how many of you have ever seen anyone talking on the phone or texting on the phone while they're driving their car?
Oh, yeah. Well, I do it.
Shame on you. See, I should throw this marker at you, right? Here's my point with that as an example. How many of you would agree with the following statement, that we are at a point in time in our society where we truly are expected to do all, be all, for all? Raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Agree.
Okay? See, I'm talking to a house full of ladies right now, so how many of you have kids? Raise your hand. See, yeah, it kind of goes with the territory. Believe it or not, some of us dads, it's the same way. All right? I'm down here, my wife and I, we've got 3 kids, and our nearest family is a 2-day drive. So there really aren't some of those standard gender lines in our casa, because I do some laundry, I do the house cleaning, I gotta run the kids here and there. I get it. All right? But here's my thing. When we're expected to do all, be all, for all, who gets lost? Thank you. And that's part of the problem, right? Part of the problem is we get lost, then all of a sudden 5 years from now, like, this isn't where I wanted to be. I'm not doing what I wanted to do, or whatever it might be. Because we're constantly giving and doing for everyone else. And I'm not saying that you have to be selfish, but I'm saying you have to give yourself permission to think of self. Because if you're not happy and dialed in and wired in where the power's coming out from you in a positive way, who else is going to benefit from that? Nobody. So you have to be right and steady here in order for all of those to be right and steady around you as well. Because we get lost. Trust me. And see, I will not lie with you. All right? I have season tickets to the Texans, and I have enjoyed it for one very specific reason. Yes, I am a football fanatic, but that's not the #1 reason. No. Matter of fact, there have only been a small handful of games where that's ever been the case. And you want to know why? Because those are the ones where my kids didn't go with me. When my kids go with me, that's not even on the table, not even an option. And my kids go with me 98% of the time.
Good for you.
I've gone to 2 games with 2 buddies, and those are the only 2 times, and one of them was this week. Case in point. No pun intended on case. Sorry, couldn't resist. Opportunity to present themselves. I enjoy them because I get to create memories with my kids one-on-one, because I've only got 2 tickets. And so I'm even more excited this year because the little guy is only 6. And last year he was 5, didn't express any interest. This year he's expressed interest. So in 2 weeks, my little dude, little Nolan, little peanut like this, he's going to go with me to the game. Why do I share that? Because that's one of the things that's important to me. I get to create these memories. I get to spend these time. It's great that we get to do things as a family, but to have that one-on-one time to create those experiences. My daughter loves to go. It's daddy. We call it daddy and daughter time. Okay, and she's sandwiched between an older brother and a younger brother, so she doesn't have a problem getting away. Right? But the point that I get to is there's purpose behind the activity. And it isn't just, ooh, I've got season tickets, ooh, I've got this. We happen to be a family that enjoys football, so it adds to that. But I look at it more for creating memories. And it's my hope that down the road in the vision that my kids in one other form or fashion will find when they become parents, whatever activity it engages them with their kids, that they carry that on. That they find something fun and engaging to do and they create those memories. Right? It's not just about being, it's also about doing. All right? That's important to me. And that's part of why when I said that, my time, my poor wife, she works in the school district, she's an occupational therapist. For her to go to a Sunday football game would be an all-day thing, and that just creates more anxiety and angst and stress because she's got to spend all Sunday doing what? Reports and preparing for the week ahead. So at least I can take one of the kids away, balance out the equation a little bit, and have fun, especially now that they're a little bit more independent. Why do I bring that up? Because here's one of the things. How many of you went over 168 in your grand total? Anyone? All right, y'all, there's a special session for us afterwards. All right, we're going to figure out how you did that, because whatever the formula is, we're going to market it, we're going to sell it. I'm going to incorporate us as a small business, and then we're going to retire tomorrow and go to the beach and drink our foo-foo drinks with umbrellas or whatever we're going to do. Okay? What's ironic is I did this same activity. I love this one. I did this activity a number of years ago in Austin with it's the Texas chapter of NAPAHE, which is the National Association of Presidential Assistants in Higher Education. So these are all presidential assistants. And I did the same exact activity with just about the same amount of people in the room, and one of them said something like 220 hours. And we're all kind of like, how'd you go and do that? And then the best part about it is we start going through, we start talking, and one person, said, oh, wow. And I just realized that I spend most of my time sleeping. And then this person that did 220 hours, like, oh my God, I forgot to sleep. Case in point, here's what I want you to do. Minus work and minus sleep. How many of you do budgeting? Any of you do budgeting out there? Dollars and cents, bottom lines? All right, so those are your non-discretionary funds in your time. You gotta work and you gotta sleep, okay? Unless you're independently, family wealthy, whatever the case is, we gotta do this thing. And we gotta sleep because we gotta have our health, right? Minus those two activities, and that's why to me they're non-discretionary. Everything else to me is discretionary. I want you to circle the top 5 time spenders. Where are those hours on the right, not including sleep or work? Where are those, bless you, where are those activities that you're spending your most time? Do we have a little telltale here?
It's okay, I mean, I usually don't throw it.
All right, you ready for Klinger Zinger number 2? Klinger Zinger number 2 is, look at those top 5 time investments that you're making, and now go and compare them with what matters most list of your top 5.
Not on there.
That's where Klinger Zinger number 2 comes in. How many of you are in alignment with where you're spending your time, in alignment with what matters most to you? Sort of? Good. Most folks, it's either, I usually don't hit a middle stream. It's either, oh yeah, or, oh no. Bless you.
Mine is.
Okay?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Well, yeah.
Right? Here's why this is important. It's the same reason you balance a budget. It's the same reason you make discretionary and non-discretionary cost lines. If you don't look at the same thing, because your budget should be connected to your goals should be connected to your mission and your vision should dance with one another so that you do what? Get the outcomes that you desire. So I come back to that family vacation again. There's alignment there, right? So this is how you get in alignment. It's kind of how many of you know that your car's out of alignment? You're going down the road and you're feeling you either get the front end down in alignment or you get the tires been balanced and rotated and now you're up on the road and it's nice and smooth and it's quiet. That's what I'm talking about, getting balance. And one of the ways that you get balance is you got to go to the foundation, and that's where this is here. Building the foundation, your building block is those values. What's important to you? That's where your energy should, if you're able. I understand sometimes we're not able because sometimes life happens. That's where your time and energy should be invested on what's important to you. You want to talk about being motivated? You want to talk about, all right, real quick, how many of you have ever set out a goal, you've accomplished and achieved the goal? Raise your hand. How many of you have your happy dance? Right? Little Cabbage Patch action, right? Little shopping cart. Whatever it is for you, all right? Because tell me how you have felt when you achieved or accomplished a goal that you set out to achieve. Tell me what that emotion is like. Articulate it in words. I got a grunt.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Pride.
Pride. Tell me those don't unleash that power that's within you, that you don't feel good like you can take on the world and do it again. The point that I'm trying to get to is if you're not in alignment and you feel that the world is spinning around you and about you, this is the way that you make it stop from spinning. You stop, you think about where am I spending my time and what's important and are they in alignment. You can do this activity any time you want. You're thinking, well, that's great, this is professional development. Well, guess what? If you're not personally balanced, how old are you going to be professionally? But you ready for this one? This activity can extrapolate out to the group dynamic. So if you're in an area or a department or a unit where you feel the same thing, or just all going in different directions, then I bet you could encourage whoever your manager, supervisor, leader, or if you have the opportunity to put on the table, what's really important to us right here, right now? This exact activity can play a part in a group dynamic with how they spend their time, energy, and resources. It is no different. But I come back to the you. If you're not in sync,
New kids on the
Some
block.
of you caught that one, some of you, boom, right over your head, right? Couldn't resist. I will admit I have a man crush on Justin Timberlake, but that's another story for another day. All right? I'll tell you why here in a little bit. Point it up, you're like, oh, here, I'm just building up the anticipation. I have a very good reason. And I figure if I keep telling enough people, someone will be in his circle and it'll happen, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But here's my point of the matter. Again, I come back to that balance. Talking about stress earlier, if we're out of alignment and we're not able to invest where we're spending our time, and you know what, I'm also a realist. I recognize that we can't always do everything we want to do when we want to do it. But you know what? Sundays with my kids going to a Texans game, I can look forward to that because that can recenter and repurpose me for at least a little while until the chaos comes back the next day. Am I wrong? Okay, so I at least know how to pepper in some of what is important, even though I can't get it all. And see, I had to learn that lesson very hard because things were going very well for me a couple of years ago, 2008. If I say September of 2008, what does that mean to anyone in this room?
Crash.
Crash of what? Yes?
Hurricane Ike.
Hurricane Ike. Okay? You don't know this, but I live in Seabrook, Texas. Does anyone know where Seabrook is? It's out of our home for close to 10 months. We took on 2.5 to 3 feet of storm surge. We were in the 100-year floodplain prior to that. My entire life went into the back burner. And what that taught me is, that taught me the value and the understanding and the awareness of seasons in life. That particular season, for those 10 months, there was priority one, that was get my family back into our home. So it was work and that and nothing else. All the speaking engagements to the back burner, all the extra volunteering to the back burner, because I was crazy or stupid, depending on how you want to put it. I served as my own general contractor.
Oh.
Why did I do it? Because I knew personally people who had been ripped off by storm chasers who had come in to take their money to fix their home, promising them all this time frame of repair, completely, utterly taking advantage of their hope and desire to get back in their home, and then leaving with 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 thousands of dollars, and they're left with nothing to show for it. So I fought for my family. About killed me. All right, because it made me do things that I didn't know what I was doing. I had to call upon people to help me. But I fought day in and day out with one mission and one purpose. And then we celebrated that when we got back in. And it was a celebration. Okay? Difficult challenge. Put everything on the back. My point is, still got to find ways to do that. And I didn't that time. And I had migraines day in and day out. I got sick because of the stress. I can't even tell you how many pounds that I put because I'm a stress eater. Okay? Still have some more to lose from that, believe it or not. But the fact is, I had to get back to what was important immediately after that. And I did, and I couldn't wait. And you know what happened when I did? I came back. The Ron that was in here, that had to be something else for a short period of time, was able to adjust and get back online. And I guarantee you, every single one of you in here have probably had that time frame in your life where you've had to adjust, where you've had to do something that you would prefer not to do, but you had to because you wish you could be something or doing something else. And the point that I hope that today serves for you in this first part of the day is what's important to you. Don't lose sight of that. Revisit that on a regular basis. And then ask yourself, am I spending my time on the things that matter most to me right here, right now? And even if it's one of the 5, invest. If it's 2 of the 5, great. Heck, if you're doing all 5, that means you better have some lucky dance or something going on to celebrate that. Because I think that's one of the big things that separates folks that's out in society. Those that are able to maintain that balance and that harmony and that peace and getting everything that they want from the time that they have. And then there's everybody else trying to do that. Okay? So why the number 5? Man, there's so many spiritual and other type of references to 5 that exist. Books in the Bible, the Star of David, and I'm not using any one denomination. I'm like, you go out and you research the number 5. To me, it's also a bit of a cleansing. It gives you enough to focus on and look at and do, but it doesn't overwhelm. Okay, so that's where that number 5 is. But here, that box, that foundation, building that foundation is about your values and knowing what's important to you. Next page, moving to page 5. 5 years from today, what do you want to say you have accomplished or achieved? Write that in there right now. Because see, one of the things is I'm giving you time and permission to do this. What do I mean by that? If you weren't doing it here, would you do it anyway? No. Would you go back to your office and write it out? No. See, and part of the piece of this is the process and the activity of saying, 5 years from now, what do I hope to say I've accomplished or achieved? Scares me. 5 years from now, I'm a senior getting ready to graduate from high school. And when I look at that piece, I pray that I'm able to launch him out into whatever endeavor he wants to do and support him in whatever way I can so that he gets everything that he wants to get. I am not the helicopter parent, just so that you know. Let's make that absolutely clear. I probably go on the complete other end of the spectrum. How many of you in here know what I'm talking about, helicopter parent? Mm-hmm. Moms and dads that do everything for their kids and their kids don't know how to do it for themselves. I refuse. Oh, yeah, you will continue to get them until, you know what, you're going to continue to get them until all the millennials are in and the generation behind starts to arrive. Because the generation behind does not want anything to do to look like or be like that millennial generation. Because they've heard the bum rap that they've got. They're like, man, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, Black Hawk helicopter parents.
Oh yeah, the ones that mow you down. Yeah, Black Hawks. Oh, I have a whole other session on helicopter parents I can do for anybody in education. I've actually done HR because guess what? Those behaviors have gone from elementary to intermediate to high school to college to the workplace. And people think I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs crazy when I say that, but I'm not. I have example upon example. But see, the key is here, 5 years from now, what's it look like for you? The key is if you don't create a vision for what it can be, it won't. And I'm not talking all this hypothetical. I'm talking what's it going to look like? What's it going to be? See, the students that come here and the students that go to anywhere to get an advanced degree, whatever their degree might be beyond high school and their post-secondary experience, they all have a shared common vision. And what is that? Graduating. They know what it is that at whatever point in time in the future that they're working for, and they can probably picture this. And how many of you ever had this where you close your eyes, oh my gosh, this is killing me, how am I going to get through this? And you close your eyes and you picture your family and your loved ones in the stands and you and your regalia hearing someone read your name and celebrating your accomplishment. That's the vision I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to see something and then making it happen. See, I have the honor and privilege. I'm one of those folks that gets to read those names for our commencement ceremonies. It's also one of the most difficult, mental, exhausting tasks of my entire life. Because I can go in 10 minutes and cover about 20 different cultures and backgrounds and pronunciations of names that you could never mind. Anyone want to care to share their vision? It's all right, you can keep it to yourself, that's all right. See, I've got one, like I already told you. In 5 years from now, I will be doing probably one of two things. A, managing and running my own training and consulting business because I now know more of where my strengths are and I don't want to do the rest of the stuff. Alright? And quite frankly, that's the only vision I have, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think what the other one was. I can't. So everything that I do day in and day out, how do I get there? How do I help that? I'm not saying I'm great. I don't think I deserve to be up there in the likes of Stephen Covey or anybody else. But I do have a passion for what I do. I do care about helping to unlock what people can do and go out and achieve and accomplish if they're willing. And I've said that a couple of times today because that is a major clarifier, if willing. Because some people are perfectly content to stay exactly right where they're at. I don't know that lifestyle. That's just me. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't know it. I don't understand it. I have a very, very close personal friend of mine. One of my best friends was in my wedding. He's content. I don't comprehend content. I don't ever get content. I may like what I do, celebrate what I do, but I always look at, ooh, what's the next? What's the next? That's just me. That's how I'm wired. That's what's important. So the key is, well, how are you wired? What's important to you? All right? See, part of that sheltering your future is creating that vision. And the part of the house comes in is, what's the goal of the house? Is to provide what? Shelter. And without the roof, you can't get there. So to shelter your future, you need to create a vision. I encourage you to whatever time frame you feel is appropriate. 1 year, baby steps, 2 year to 5 years. So I use a 5 year. 5 years from now, if we were to regroup, have a reunion of this moment, of this day, and say, are you where you thought you'd be 5 years ago? I would want as many hands to go up in this room and say, absolutely. Maybe not in this one facet, but I am in more than I am not. But see, it comes, you have to create a plan for it. And what we don't give ourselves permission to do is what I'm giving you the time and permission to do today is to do this type of thinking and working. Is to sit down and say, what am I doing now? How can I engage this? You need to find the time at whatever frequency. See, for me, it's twice a year. I do it around my birthday and I do it around New Year's. And then any other point in time where I have to get reset. But there's two primary times. I go deep reflection in the holiday season. It just happens just the way that I do. I don't even think I'm conscious of it anymore. It just happens. Why? What did I accomplish this year and what do I need to do for the next year? How is that helping me, help my family, achieve, accomplish, do, whatever? But I plan the time for that. So much that I request my man in cave time, and you can't get any more extroverted than this guy right standing before you. Okay, my scale is woohoo, all the way on the end. Okay, but I prefer at that time to go into my introverted needs, think, reflect, process, plan, and then strategically prioritize and arrange what comes first, second, third, because this one will impact this one, which will impact that one. I mean, I can get cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs geeked on all that stuff. I said that twice now, sorry. Okay. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is as you go away from today, and unfortunately, I don't think most of you will do this. Write it out. What does that 5-year vision plan look like? You want to get energized? Do you want to stay positive? You want to be upbeat? Start hanking out some goals and accomplishing and achieving what you want to do, and tell me you don't feel better about what it is that you're doing. Okay? So that's how you shelter your future. Create that vision and be specific with it. So the way you're like, okay, well, Ron, that's all great. I can create that vision, but how am I going to get there? How am I going to do that? How many of you have ever heard of SMART goals? Well, that's the way you do it. You got to create some goals, and if they're smart, they got a better chance of becoming a reality. So when you say SMART goals, the S stands for specific. So the goal has got to be, when you articulate it, it's got to be specific. Well, I think I want to do this. Well, that's not very specific. Okay? The M stands for measurable. So specific, measurable. All right? The A stands for action-oriented. Some out there will say achievable. There's a couple different models of this. I use action-oriented as the A. Okay? The R stands for realistic. Is it something that you can realistically accomplish or achieve? Because you don't want to set a goal that just can't happen. So it needs to be realistic. And then the T stands for time-bound. And I will tell you the specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic are important, but the T in the time-bound is the one that most folks fall short on. Okay? Oh, well, I'm going to do this. Well, when? Well, I don't know. When I get around to it. So I always love it when I got those practical jokers that I know, and they'll bring me those wooden round to it. You've seen those before, right? You can get them at prank stores or novelty stores. It's like a wooden nickel, but on it says, this is your round, and then in the center it says to it. This is your round to it, so you have a round to it. Got it? And it's like, okay, now I don't have an excuse, right? But the point is, if we don't establish a time frame, I'll give you just an easy example. How many of you have friends that just say, oh, hey, we need to do lunch? Yeah, we do. And you don't. Why? Because you never establish a time frame by when you're going to have lunch. And then 6 months later, hey, we need to have lunch. We never had that lunch right. And you never set a time. It's 6 months. And then it just keeps going on and on and on and on. That's my example of why time and that time frame matters. So when you create your vision, I'm encouraging you to do it in a 5-year plan. So what's year 1 year look like? What's year 2 look like? What's year 3, year 4, and the end year 5? You know, one of the things, and I completely, utterly obliterated this, I wanted to be debt-free in 5 years. Well, that didn't happen because Lord knows insurance didn't cover everything to fix our house, and either you do it right or you don't do it at all is my philosophy. And so doing it right meant I went further in the hole. Which is why I'm a little slow to do some other things, because you know, you can only exhaust so many hours in any given day. But I tell you what, I'm back on it, we're getting closer. Right? You got to have a plan. That's why how many of you know if I say Dave Ramsey, total money makeover, there's a plan that's there, right? That helps people get out, and debt is one of those things that in some form or fashion, if you don't have it personally, I guarantee you know somebody who does that's close to you. It just happens. But see, if you don't have a plan and you get what you plan for and you stay right where you're at, you go the other direction. Okay? So that's a part of where this comes in. And this is really the blueprint. So just like the goals that you're setting your SMART goals here, to me, that's the structure that your vision sits on, and it sits on your foundation of your values of what's important. All right? So when we use the house, that makes sure we don't sway left and right, that we have enough substance behind what we're doing to actually get a structure that's going to stand. Well, your vision doesn't become a reality without the goals, without action steps and plans by which to get there. All right? So, ironically enough, I've got these 5 areas here. Go back to your what matters most to you, and there's 5 things. Talk about getting in alignment. Let's take item number 1, most important, and let's create a SMART goal. Let's take item number 2 and create a SMART goal. Let's take item 3, 4, and 5 and create 1 goal for each. Now, if you do that, I'm going to promise you this. You're going to be dancing the jig or whatever boogaloo dance you want to do. Shake y'all, or it's y'all thing. Oh, do what you want to do. Yeah, like pop culture. Okay? Because when you get in alignment, you're producing what? Positive outcomes. Positive outcomes breed additional success. Because then it gets kind of addicting, if you will, in a positive way. When someone does something good, you want to do something good that's more, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and the next thing you know, 5 years from now, you've got every area and every life of where you want to be doing what you want to do, how you want to do it. Yeah, maybe there's things that are longer than 5 years, but put it on a 5-year plan. Make progress, because if you don't make that plan, you're going to be right where you're at then where you stand right now. Does that make sense? All right, a couple things I'm going to go through here. Now, the next piece that is kind of in conjunction with this, and I'm going to give some additional handouts, I use a tool that I absolutely love, and it's one of those things that I'm working to try to use a lot more. I just had the gift of using this with a colleague who's out with another organization, and her team of 12. It's called Insights Discovery. It's a personality assessment tool that helps to maximize individual and team performance through awareness. It's very, very, very powerful. It's awesome. Insights Discovery. Have you taken that? You know what I'm talking about? What's your most preferred color energy? Do you remember? Cool blue?
It's something on my...
You got the blocks, you got the Insights blocks, give me some vibes there. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Extremely powerful.
Is it colors? Is that what they call it?
There are 4 colors, yes.
It's different than colors.
It's different than true colors. This one, True Colors is a good assessment tool if that's what you're looking at. This one is actually a statistically valid psychometric personality assessment tool. It's called Insights Discovery.
That's a very creepy thing to see.
It is. The profile, every person that's ever taken a profile sits there and says, how did they get this and how did they know this about me? Okay? Why do I bring that up? One of the tools that's in there is this thing called the G-Wave. And it's your goal. Once you articulate a SMART goal, then you apply what I call the principle of G-Wave. So the G is the goal. Then you ask yourself, okay, so if you look down below, Why is this goal important to you? You want to make things happen? This is how you break it down. All right? Why is the goal important? We'll talk about that. What actions need to be taken in order to accomplish and achieve the goal? The V stands for visualize. What's it going to look like once I've accomplished it or achieved it? So there comes your vision again, reinforcing that. And then the E is engaging support. Who do I need help from? Because the reality around here, folks, is we don't work in a vacuum or in a silo any longer. We have to exist and work positively with others to accomplish and achieve whatever outcomes we desire. So you can't do it all on your own. You have to be willing to ask for help. And so what really, truly gives, to me, the goal is kind of like the skeleton. This is the muscle that brings the action and the motion to what you're going to accomplish and do. I will also tell you, a great way to plan a meeting is to use the G-Wave. What's the goal of the meeting? Why are we meeting? What actions do we need to take? What's it going to look like? And who do we need help support if there's action items at the end? Oh, just a little friendly tidbit on that one as well, too. All right? But I've got some action planning worksheets here that I'll share in a minute. And it's just a document that has more of these tables that are on page 7 down there. I'm going to tell you right now, you go out and take one goal from today. I don't even want you to do all 5. Take one goal and map it out the way that this is mapped out. And then call me and tell me it didn't happen. Go ahead, I dare you. I double dog, triple dog, whatever high-level dog dare I can give, and tell me that that goal doesn't become a reality and happen. But see, here it comes back to the thing. The principle that I was trying to give, to truly that power to be that resides within you, that power to be that resides in me, is the fact that I've got to give it permission to come out. I've got to give it the time to plan such things like these to occur, because if I don't, then I stay right where I'm at. And I love this one. Part of the piece with these goals is it does provide that direction. And to use a point from that direction, how many of you, Alice in Wonderland? Alice says to the Cheshire Cat, can you tell me which way I ought to go from here? The cat responds, well, that depends on which way you want to go, dear. Alice responds, I don't quite care. And then the cat responds, well, then it doesn't matter which way you go. See, without purpose, without direction, without that vision, without these actions, we just here. And there's so much that we can accomplish and achieve that's right here if we let ourselves and we give ourselves time and permission to create that plan. And I come back to it. You create the plan so that you can work the plan, because when you don't have a plan, you get what you planned for. It's the crusade. And then 5 years from now, you wonder why you're where you're at. And I'm here to tell you, you can change that today. I'm here to tell you, you break it, and this isn't rocket science. Trust me, I lived in the Clear Lake area. I know rocket scientists. This is not that. Okay? This is not rocket science. But most of your hands in this room went up that you've accomplished or achieved something, and the energy, the power that flows from you when you do that is extremely positive. So my question, and I don't know about you, but why wouldn't you want more of that? And it's not hard. It doesn't have to be difficult. We are our own barriers. We make it difficult. But right here, you have all the tools. In this handout, I gave you everything that you need to have, that you can truly unleash that potential that you have within you, which is, that's what motivates and drives me. That's what inspires me to do what I do, because I've seen it. I've seen individuals go out and accomplish more than they ever even thought of themselves that they could do. Because they created some of the plans. They created that vision. They tapped into their potential. And this is the handout that I promised that I would give you. This is the action planning worksheet. So this is, and I gave it to you in white for a reason. So if you want to photocopy it, you can as many times as you want. And I don't care. And I'll have extras if you want extras. But the thing is, it's the process that you go through. It's one of those things that, okay, Ron, but how does this relate to what I'm doing? You're here because you've got a supportive supervisor, right? Because if you didn't have a supportive supervisor, you wouldn't be sitting in this room. So if you have an opportunity and your supervisor says to you, so tell me how you'd like to go and grow. You're like, well, it's funny that you asked, because I've created some goals now. one of the things that I've been connected to Tessa for going on a decade now. And yes, I was very, very humbled and very honored this past spring with, I mean, you should see this plaque and award. It's huge. All right, it also weighs about 20 pounds, so I haven't figured out how to anchor it into a wall yet. But the point of that is I'll never forget one activity that I did with folks at one point in time. It was on professional development and owning your professional development. And I said, so, what's professional development mean to you? And I belabored that question for about 10 minutes. And everyone got frustrated with me because I wouldn't give them an answer. I said, it's not my definition. It's yours. And if you can't define it, you won't achieve it. But you have to be able to define it in order to accomplish and achieve it. Otherwise, how do you build the steps to get there? How do you actually go from point A to point B, from point B to point C, or C and jump all the way to Z? How do you do that if it's not defined? And see, professional development means something different for every single one of you in here. How many people would love the opportunity to speak in front of thousands of people? Raise your hand. See, a couple of you. Yeah. Not Miss Bashful up here, right? Wouldn't mind. See, and here's why I bring this up. I had the opportunity, when asked, to respond because I spent some time working on my strengths. How many of you, do y'all do the strength quest out here with students? Do you know what I'm talking about? Phenomenal assessment, phenomenal tool. If you don't get connected to that one, you can go there's several books. Just go Google Strengths, Strengths Finder. There's Now Discover Your Strengths. There's Strengths Finder 2.0. There's Strength-Based Leadership. Yes, I drank the Kool-Aid. But I got involved when the first book came out, which was Now Discover Your Strengths. So I know what my strengths are. So when someone said to me, Ron, you've got a good voice. Would you like to come on our radio show and be a guest? Sure, this is a great topic. Okay. After that, I said, wow, you sounded really good on the airwaves. Would you like to be one of our hosts? So I spent 3 years in a volunteer role as a talk show host on AM 650. 3 years. There's some changes in the format. CBS went to getting rid of all their weekly syndicated shows and became a national syndicate that are brought through their network feed. But I can dial in radio, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you how. But you know what that opportunity afforded me to do? Be the strongest me that I could be. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like live talk radio. I mean, I had an opportunity. I had an opportunity, for better or for worse, for whatever your political alliances are. I will tell you, I had an opportunity to interview a very unique, very dynamic individual in our mayor Anise Parker, mayor of Houston. Not once, but twice. And here I am on the airwaves of, who knows, thousands of people, getting harassed on live radio by the mayor. Because see, I did my homework initially. I knew what was she doing, all the activities, and this was about 5 months after she had first initially been elected into office. And I freaked her out because I knew all these things of what she was doing. I knew she was the master of ceremony for a Girls Power Incorporated event the following week, and she just gotten named to Time Magazine's 101 most influential people in the area of leadership. It's like, wow, so I did my homework, right? That's what you should do as a talk show host, know about your guest. And the reason I share that with you is because we're on the airwaves, and I did my show opening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Community Spotlight Radio Show. I'm your host, Ron Klinger. I'm excited to have our guest here in studio. But before we begin, let me make sure I give you our telephone number, 713. I went through the whole, you do the opening of the show and getting ready to introduce, and I said, well, I'm excited to have our guest in the studio. Mayor Parker, welcome to the studio with us. I said, I'm looking forward to having fun. And she goes, I don't know about having fun because it's kind of like being in the studio with a stalker on live radio.
Those are Klingers in the...
She's in me, right? She put me in my place. But my point with that is I led from my strengths. I knew where I was strongest. I knew what my goals were. Have an opportunity to speak and share and educate. And that's what attracted me to the show. Because now you have an audience of who knows, online streaming. It was awesome because I had friends listening all over the country. I'd send them out, hey, I'm going to be this. They could just click and dial in and let's do it streaming online. Totally awesome. But see, I had some visions. I had some planning, some things that went into place. Because sometimes you're not always going to know the opportunities that are going to come a-knocking. and if you have defined what's important to you, and if you have created goals that's going to allow what's important to come to be reality, when opportunities, oh, wait a minute, does that take us back to the start of the conversation? Like change come knocking? Makes it easy to say yes or no. Like that? So one of the things that I think is critical in this process is I think we need to give ourselves credit where credit is due, but we also need to work and understand that we don't work in a vacuum like I talked about earlier, that we actually do, where's the book, work with others. And I think one of those things that I want to close with is I want to thank you for having me be here, but how many have ever read the book, How Full Is Your Bucket? Yeah, not a good book, isn't it? Another Gallup one that does the strengths and everything else in here. Interestingly enough, it's a grandfather-grandson author combination, Tom Rath and Donald Clifton. Great book, How Full Is Your Bucket? And what I'm going to read from here, and I'm going to give you a copy of this here in just a second, is their whole theory of the dipper and the bucket. So, just to illustrate, I brought my dipper and my bucket along just to kind of share. And then I'm going to do some other things with that in just a second. But let me read this to you. Because one of the things that we can do every day is we can positively impact those around us. And each of us has an invisible bucket. It is constantly emptied or filled depending upon what others say or do to us. When our bucket is full, we feel great. When it's empty, we feel awful. Each of us also has an invisible dipper. When we use that dipper to fill other people's buckets by saying or doing things to increase their positive emotions, we also fill our own bucket. But when we use that dipper to dip from others' buckets by saying or doing things that decrease their positive emotions, we diminish ourselves. Like the cup that runneth over, a full bucket gives us a positive outlook and renewed energy. Every drop in that bucket makes us stronger and more optimistic. But an empty bucket poisons our outlook, saps our energy, and undermines our will. That's why every time someone dips from our bucket, it hurts us. So we face a choice every moment of every day. We can fill one another's buckets or we can dip from them. It's an important choice, one that profoundly influences our relationships, productivity, health, and happiness. Case in point, how many of you ever been around a negative Nancy? And doesn't the light just go out the door? So one of the things that I would encourage you to do, and I've got some drops here, is today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you get around to it. Today, I want you to practice filling someone else's bucket. I want you, here's a drop, and you can tell them what it's for, because we need to get in the habit of praising and acknowledging others for their positive contributions. Oh, wait a minute, where did this dial in? Oh, I don't know, managing and dealing with change, goals and goal setting and accomplishment and achievements. There's 3 there. And I think this is absolutely, positively an area that we need to do more. So take a moment when you get a chance today and think about, Ron, I gotta go back to work. Yeah, you got how many hours left? You tell me you can't find a brief moment to write a little note to someone that says thank you, or I appreciate you, or I value you. Notice the drops fill the bucket. Because guess what? When we fill others' buckets, we are in return doing what? Filling our own. And you need to do it in a positive, genuine way. Because we can sniff out that less than genuine effort from a mile away, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. That person that comes and blows smoke, we won't say where. Alright, so with that being said, I'll get you this theory of the dipper in the bucket. The parting thoughts that I truly want to leave you with is yes, and as we hit and as you affirmed, change is a constant. But how you approach it, how you address it, how you take ownership of it. The way that you do that is being well balanced and well rounded for you. Your goals, your vision, what's important to you and how do you achieve that. And the other way, y'all go fill people's buckets. Fill them, let them run it over. You can even go out to bucketbook.com and send them electronically. You need an account, but you can send them electronically. The more that you can go in and see, folks, it's things like this. This is, I feel like what I'm doing right here as I see the looks on your faces, I feel as though there's a ripple effect that could happen. It's that first pebble that get cast into the pond that can just ripple out. This is the thing that can make the difference in the culture of an entire organization.
Agreed.
And each and every single one of you, I know, because again, I've been connected long enough, I've been in higher ed long enough, and I've been in HR. The work that you do, I know this. And it pains me to say it. I know there's a lot of times that you probably feel underappreciated. I understand. But here's my piece that I will tell you. I recognize and know what you do day in and day out. Even though I'm not here, I understand that. But what you can be is you can be that beacon. You can be that light. You can be that person that casts that pebble into that pond by going out and doing some of the things we talked about today. By being that positive presence. It's a choice. It's a choice. And it's one that you can make. So I thank you for your time, your presence, and your participation today. Look, I even stopped right in time when I said I was going to. Didn't go full. Are there any questions for me that I can answer? Thoughts, comments, gripes, concerns, or complaints? So send them to Jen.
You can send them to me.
There you go. Well, I thank you for your time and your presence and your participation. I'll just leave these up here. That way, if you want to get that theory of the dipper in the bucket, you can grab that on your way out. I'll even leave more drops if you want to grab more drops. I'm going to put them right over here. And again, you can go out and you can get those online. And just, I think the way that you can truly, that power to be resides in me, the way you let that out is you don't hide it. You show it for everyone else to see, and you recognize others for the positive contributions that they're making. Because I guarantee you, I heard the part-timers, you're talking about student workers. I guarantee you some of them save your goose and your chicken. Right? Thank them for what they're doing. You'd be amazed at what happens when we lift people up versus tearing them down. Because it's so much easier to tear down than it is to lift up. But man, you get good at lifting up, guess what? You begin to soar yourself. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you today. Enjoy the rest of your day.